Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Vienna Live with Simeon Morrow and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and/or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which I'll now place in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. This show thrives on participant contributions, and all participants are encouraged to actively participate in this webinar by asking questions and making comments. To do so, please either write in the chat room, raise your hand, or turn on your microphone to say hi, and I'll be delighted to include your perspective in the conversation. Tonight, our featured guest is Professor Michael Werba, the solo bassoonist of the Vienna Philharmonic for about 40 years, and in his 12th year as artistic director of the Vienna Philharmonic's Angelika Prokop Summer Academy Opera. Also joining us tonight is Dr. Lino Rivera, professor of music at St. Mary's College of California. Welcome, Professor Werba.
Good evening, gentlemen. I can see not ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen. And I want to welcome you, but you know I'm a bassoonist, and it's always difficult that it is said that a bassoon can play only slow, like the viola player and so on. But we can do it quicker a little bit. Also, please show us a quicker scene out of the Haydn Concertante.
Will do. Fantastic. So Professor Werba, I see that you performing as soloist with the Vienna Philharmonic and Leonard Bernstein conducting. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Yes, it was a special career because I started very, very young. I started with 19 years coming to join the Vienna Symphony Orchestra, and 1 year later I joined the Vienna State Opera Orchestra and Vienna Philharmonic, and then I was 20 years old. And the big concert, my first big concert with Lenny Bernstein was 4 years later when I was playing the Haydn Concertante. Therefore, I was at this time, I think, about 24 years old. And it was a very great experience.
And so tell us about how did you get into the bassoon playing? I mean, it's not known as the most common instrument that people learn how to play. But how did you do that? And tell us a little bit about kind of your family background.
Okay, it's a terrible family I had, because all the themes were only around music in this family. It was really, for other people, a very difficult situation, but we were all musicians, and you must imagine my father was a very famous pianist and specialist for lead. My mother was a teacher for singing, and she was before a soubrette and had given it up because I was coming as a child, and therefore she stopped her career. And they wanted that I should sing, but I didn't want. I was at the Vienna choir, the boy choir, for 1.5 years, and then I said, no, I want to learn a wind instrument, because at the boy choir you had to play an instrument, and there I was asked to play violin. A terrible instrument, because if you like music and you with about 10 years and you want to produce beautiful, nice tone with high quality, and you see that that doesn't work, you say no, and you want it to change. And I wanted to play a wind instrument. That is the first funny situation, because now with my 67 years, I'm proving the career of my family 4 generations back, 5 generations back. And the funny thing is, and I said it to my father in heaven, no, Papa, you are the only pianist in this family. The rest of the family were only wind players. We were 5 generations back, only wind players. He was the only pianist.
And so
Yeah.
did they tell you, everyone else, they play wind instruments, but we want you to sing? Which other instruments did they play? And did they also play with the Vienna Philharmonic?
No. We come from a family from Graz, and at Graz there was a big, I think it was the infantry regiment, number 46, and they had the best music in this military. And 4 generations back, everyone was in this infantry regiment, a father with 5 sons, and the next were playing, my grandfather was playing trombone, and was going from Graz to Vienna Symphonic, and was a Vienna Symphonic trombone player. And his son is my father, and he was the only pianist, but composer and so on. And it's a really long line of musicians in this family.
And just a curiosity, so coming from Graz, and you said in the infantry regiment, so I imagine they were part of this imperial army of the emperor.
Right.
And
Right.
Graz is known as kind of a military town. Is that
right? And therefore, all had to play clarinets, all instruments you could carry while going with the military. Yeah, marching. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
it's a funny situation. Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
So let's
Excuse me. I want only to fulfill. I was asked to show my teeth at this time, and I was very astonished, because they wanted me to play flute. That would be for the teeth the best possibility, and I said, no, I don't like these high notes. I want to play lower. And then it was the bassoon. Yeah, that was my imagination, and I was right, because all what you like to do from your youth in a moment, and you stay with it for a long time, then you can become you can become a great quality of playing and eine Richtung. Yeah.
Direction. You
Okay,
have a clear
direction.
path.
You want to do that. Okay.
And Professor, so to be clear, they asked you to open your mouth and look at your teeth so they could
Like
decide
that?
which instrument would be good.
Yes, right.
That sounds
Like
old
with the
school.
horses. Like with the horses. You want to sell. Okay. Okay.
Great. So let's move on then to the main topic of this show tonight, which is your father's role in bringing Vienna back after World War II. We know that Vienna was devastated by World War
Right.
II. And of course, after World War I, it was a political devastation where the empire, the emperor had to resign. It became a republic. All of the greater Austria turned into little small nations. So after World War II, then it was really, I
And it
mean,
was very small. Yeah,
it was
small, smaller, small.
so
Yes.
this is very special. I think what you said about and what you'll tell us about your father and his
Yeah.
role in
Look,
this really Vienna as a musical city, which it probably was not that before, like it is today, like it is after World War II. It really became, I mean, the Republic of Austria was the Republic of music, right?
yes, but for nowadays, I think the music is much more for the foreigners. They join Austria and they want to hear Austrian music. In the time of my father, 44, 46, and then I will bring examples, you can see that also the politic knew you had to bring so much as possible music artists. You have to bring up this science again, that the people will be glad and will come to the concerts. Yeah. For instance, if you can show please the archive of my father, we had made a photo. If I can explain to the colleagues and friends that are joining us, this program, for instance, 56, 1957, that is only the program where all programs of himself, his concert he plays, and that were at 56, 7 were about 80 concerts a year, and 70, 72 that were 100 concerts a year. Yeah, and it's not because there's the numbers. It was so many, but he was working with about 40, 50 singers of his time during 1 year. That means 50 different persons you are working with, you are making programs, and the people wanted to listen to Liederabende. And he was the lead specialist in Vienna. And it was also funny for me to see later, there were 3 people worldwide, they brought up the lead. That was, for instance, Gerald Moore at Großbritannien, and nearly at the same time, my father in Vienna, and that was Mr. Schilhawski at Salzburg, and he had a big affinitation to France and was playing the Liederabend of the France literature.
So, Professor Werba, to be clear, so these are each year of your
Yeah,
father's career, and
right,
like we see, he's playing more and more and more
right,
concerts. So we get to 1965, and it's 2 volumes, and then it's 2 volumes. I mean, because they couldn't put it all in one book. And then we even
right.
have these in '76, these 2 large albums, and then I suppose over here, this is like you said, 1939 to 43. Is that what that says?
Yeah, right.
Wow. So
Yeah,
during the war, and this was his concert programs, and
yeah.
then
And
52 it really started again.
what all you have to imagine is that he was coming back. He was in Russian after the war.
Hmm.
Was
As a
a
prisoner.
prisoner
Uh-huh.
at Russia for not. He had good luck, but not so long time. But he came back. Then he was with a person with about 100 kilos later, and he
Huh.
came back from the war with 38 kilos.
Oh,
And from that, he had to start from really downstairs as a pianist and as a conductor. And what I am so fascinated about him is that he was able to bring the people together in a town after the World War, and how to say, he was at the last situation, he was an institution. Everyone knew Mr. Werba because of lead interpretation. He wrote the critics. He was in every evening, he was able to go beside his playing at the opera, at the concerts, and so on. And therefore, if you show that same photo, please, we have also, again, please, we have also Brown, go lower, down. Yeah. No, we have another. Make it bigger.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Also, no.
Mhm.
He had also the situation that are his own programs, and then the books of criticism, what he wrote as critics.
Mhm.
And if you think, for instance, this is the book of only 52, 1952, his critics about really interesting people of the time. And therefore, you have a big possibility, you can look into the time, because I have these books of him. And there's really a speciality, and we are now discussing if I should make a book out of it or only a part, a book after the war from, yeah, like here you see it, right.
So these
The
are all,
brown
like
one.
you said, these are all his this is his writing. I mean, it's like he was an author. These are he would go to the concerts and he
Right,
would just write up reviews and
right.
critiques
He
of
reviews.
each of the concerts, and
Yeah, reviewed.
and he did this every night, like you said.
Yes. Look, the schedule was he was in the, for instance, Walküre at night and came back at 11 o'clock. And in the morning, he wrote the critic in the morning between 5 and 6. And then he brought it to the upper to bring it to bring it to the newspaper. Very modern at this time, electronic. It was not far away from us. Computer didn't exist. And then we had breakfast in the morning, and then he went for teaching and rehearsing the next concerts the next days. There was no space of any private hobby or something. His hobby was music, and his hobby was family, and I had the good luck that he was helping me also. Beautiful situation.
And so, Professor Werba, tell us about this. You say he was a prisoner of war in Russia. As we know from experience, this was an awful
Right.
thing. He was so far away from home. You're saying he came back with a third of himself.
Yeah, yeah.
Comes back to Vienna. He sees everything totally destroyed. Where did he get this energy to?
I don't know.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah, he had so much, but I think because of his parents or father, because his father was also a sort of manager, and its funniest thing is also he was a choir orchestra conductor. I don't know how to translate. Chur, the Baden, is a town besides Vienna where you can go for a choir, and there you are for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and therefore there exists an orchestra which is playing every day. Possibility outside in a nice garden, and the people are happy. And my grandfather was not only trombone player at Vienna Symphonic, but besides he was conductor of this choir orchestra. Yeah, that you have to imagine. And it was not possible to have a car at this time. You were going by train for these 40 kilometers to the concert, also for him, and he had to also to organize very much. Therefore, I think the family is an organization family. I also do it a little bit like that, but only a little bit.
So to be clear, Baden, it's a town next to Vienna,
Yeah.
and the translation would be Bath, just like the city in the United
Yeah, but there's
Kingdom.
no, it's really, the name is Baden.
But
Baden by Wien. It's like Baden-Baden in, yeah, bitte.
But like you said, this was.
Yes, I just want to say, the translation for that, I think in English, the Kurbaden would be the health spa.
Health spa. You are right.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rivera. Fantastic. So yes, so very good. Let's talk about this. So let's talk about this, his experiences in Austria and international experience. So you started researching this, and what did you find, Professor Werba?
Excuse me? The question I didn't understand.
Yes, so let's talk about his career a little bit and tell us about these. We'll take a look right now at this other picture of what he was writing here. Or I believe this is a little bit about the orchestra of the
right.
State Opera at that time. Tell us a little bit about this and this whole experience during those years, what it was like.
Yeah, I think it's neat, but I think we have maybe something where my father is playing on the piano. Can you show us that before?
With pleasure. Let's have some music. So this is with Walter Berry.
Walter Berry, I think it was well known, a very well known baritone. His engagement was at the Metropolitan Opera, and he was Ochs von Lerchenau, Rosenkavalier, and so on, international. Let's look to this or hear this music.
Die Welt in Blüte steht mein Herz, wie nun der Sturm noch wütet, schmolz starre Schmerz. Kennt das ist Lenzes Stürmen, das ist des Lenzes Mut, der rüttelt an den Türmen, der peitscht das Meer zur Flut. Der zieht durch alle Seelen und weht in aller Brust, bis ihn aus 1000 Kehlen, aus 1000 Kehlen, die jede jauchzt in Lust.
Wow. So that's a new composition. And I asked myself while listening to that, where did your father find the time to practice piano?
Yes, an easy answer. He was teaching lead interpretation. He had about 50 students a year, and every student has to sing, and he was on the piano accompanying. That means he was playing 6 hours a day, either with the students or with the professionals lead. And therefore, he had this full palette of possibilities, and he knew about them exactly. And about Josef Marx, that is a person, I think it's not well known. It's an for us now old-fashioned composer. If you hear very romantic, much work on the piano. My father, that's a word, it is difficult to translate. We were always laughing. He said that Marx composed, it's die Hand voller Pratzen. The hands, as the animals have to work.
Claws.
The claws Yeah,
Clause.
he has to use it like that, otherwise it's not possible to play. And this Josef Marx was a great teacher, composition teacher in Vienna, and was also the teacher of my father. And my father then had double concerts with Mr. Marx, and Mr. Marx was the idol of the time, of the lead, and my father was 30 years younger, and there was the change then later. Yeah? Okay, that to explain. That means for Josef Marx, it was a special personality. Okay, bitte. Next questions.
Yes, so I wanted to just ask you about the, so your father, he was teaching all the time, and then tell us about the other people that he worked with and what that atmosphere was like. Like you said, so the Viennese, they needed to kind of be, you know, how do I say, they needed to be invited to the concerts. They had to restart this concert life at night. And so what was it like with him and the other colleagues? You told me a story before when you met I believe one of the directors of the Vienna Philharmonic, and she said, "Oh yes, of course I remember your father." That
Yeah.
they had these experiences together.
Yeah, it was very familiar. The situation was very familiar. Look, it was a time, no joke, there was not much to eat. They worked very much, the musicians. They were around Vienna. Vienna, you know, has a beautiful Wiener Wald, the wood of Vienna around. There you will find a very good wine and the wine Trauben.
The grapes.
The grapes. And when I went to an old to the chief of Vienna Philharmonic, when he staffed, or that was Mr. Hübner, that is I think the story you mean, to Mr. Hübner, and I went to his grave, and his wife was standing on the grave, and I had an earth in my hand, and I said, excuse me, it's for my parents, I'm here, and I'm Mr. Werba. And she said, do you not think I know who you are? Because with your parents, I was going through the Wienerwald, and we took the grapes that were not allowed to took because we were hungry after the war, and we were walking around Vienna. Also to explain Baden by Wien and Vienna, in the part between the grapes are. Therefore, we have the wine at this. Yeah. But for me, it was such an astonishing. I was about 35 years old, and for me, it was really a separate situation. Such a private situation. And if you think maybe the colleagues here looking also will know the name Irmgard Seefried, and like Christa Ludwig, that was the younger singer, and Irmgard Seefried, there was the great career of my father, and they had about then 40 concerts a year. Because that was really a pair of lead interpreters together. They were making lead, and it was very special. And for instance, also to explain the time that is not usual anymore. I was sitting beside the piano of my father. He was playing, and I had to turn the pages, and I was about 12 or 13 years. And my father said to Irmgard Seefried, Irmgard, there you cannot breathe. That's not possible. Because this is a whole sentence in German. And you will break down the sentence, the meaning of the sentence. There you cannot break. And she said, no, I am the chief of the singer, the chief, and I say where I to breathe. And he says, and I tell you, I'm a doctor of Germanistic. He was not a doctor of music, he was a doctor of Germanistic. And I tell you, the people will laugh about you. You are sure you will stay in your mind? And then they were quarreling 20 minutes for this only breath. And this is the interesting thing. Today, it's not so interesting. Is there a small mistake or not? It's for the public. There, it was a sort of self-confidence. Everyone has to, also the public knew this singer is perfect. This singer makes it in only one manner, and the pianist the same. This is nowadays another sort of world.
And
Yeah.
Professor, like you're saying that when he started, he needed to recreate this concert life, this concert culture. And
Yeah.
when I think about the name of the most famous concert association in Vienna, it's Musikverein, or the music club.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
brings with it this idea that, okay, that's, you know, these people, like they're like at a tennis club, they take part, they know the music, they study it.
Right.
So the people who are in the audience, they're also very well informed. And
Yeah.
I think that's what so your father must have really succeeded, because I remember going to
But you
concert
have also to think he was writing the critics and knew every person, like Willy Boskowski. He was a very young violinist at this time. Only later he had the New Year's concert as a conductor. Friedrich Gulda, the name you will know. He was also about 16 years old. I found great critics because such a perfect pianist in this age. The same was Alfred Prinz. Later he was solo clarinetist for 40 years at Vienna Philharmonic. He was also had his first concerts in this time, 1948, 49, with in the age of 15 years. They were all starting so young. That was another situation than today. Today you go to a music school to make a university studies, and beside you play an instrument. We were playing only an instrument, and we were only interested in this instrument, and besides we made the examination that were necessary. That's the other way around. Has changed a little bit. Okay.
So I'd just like to say, if there are any questions or comments, please feel free to come in and say something. I know, for instance, we have some participants who lived in Switzerland at that time in the 1950s. So please feel free to speak up, turn on your microphone, mention to have a conversation. Michael Werba is here to hear your comments and answer your questions. So. Yes, Professor Rivera has something.
Yes, Professor Werba, thank you very much for all of these insights. Would you please elaborate a little bit more with that very latest thing that you said about the education and the playing and repertoire?
Okay, yes, I will do that. The idea, the difference between the time now and the time in my youth is that you wanted to learn an instrument, you stay with learning the instruments with one teacher for about 7-8 years, so extremely that you were able to come to a professional, in my thing, bassoonist, and beside you try to make all examinations that are necessary that you could stay at the Wiener Musikhochschule at this time. Today you are making a full studies at a music university. You know that will about 12 years, 14 years, you don't think to go to an orchestra just in the moment as quick as possible, because you want to fulfill all examinations, all
Requirements.
Right. And that has changed now. Therefore, also Vienna Philharmonic, we have only very young people joining into the orchestra, or then people they are 35 years old. You never will find person with 30 years old joining Vienna Philharmonic. They are first possibility, they are so good that they want only to come there to the orchestra, and then they are 20 years or 22 years and join the orchestra because they are so good. Or they make all studies and at the end they join the orchestra. That is now the situation.
Okay.
Any other questions? No?
Okay.
Okay.
So
Uh,
I wanted to move on
Yeah, please.
to your father's career in broadcasting. So more, so just one other thing that he did. I mean, we always think about, I always think about, for instance, Leonard Bernstein, whom we started the show with, about people talk about his young person's concerts. I believe they were called in New York, with the New York Philharmonic, that he was such a savvy media person, that he was on TV, he was on radio. Then I find out, well, actually, Eric Werba, your father, he had been doing the same thing years before. He had his own TV show. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll watch.
Yeah, the TV show was the idea because the people like lead so much and like so much the persons they were singing. For instance, if you know maybe Nikolai Gedda or Irmgard Seefried or Christa Ludwig or Walter Berry, and then Eberhard Wächter. Eberhard Wächter was a special person because he started his career 1955, very young, and it became a very international career, especially for Wagner. And then later he became also opera director. It's a pity only for 1 year because then he had a heart attack. The opera director was after his singer career, and I wanted to show this video because I think then you can imagine how the style was of this TV broadcasting of my father. It was a very familiar style. It was all very easy, and two persons are speaking about music, and besides they are playing a little bit music pieces, and it's not like a concert and stiff, and so it's bringing to the people very much, the singers very much to the people, that you have this connection. And that was a very good idea he had. I think this TV Freude an Musik, it was called, Friendship to Music. It was, I think, for 12 years, I think, every month one broadcasting. And you have to imagine that this ORF at this time was very simple. Also, the technique was very simple. And the singers of these times said, "Naja, at the studio it will not sound like the quality at Brahmssaal or Musikverein." And my father said that, "Look, we are making for the people, take it easy and make no problems, because you will not get this quality as it is made today." Let's see to Eberhard Wächter. And there's also a connection because excuse me, let's go back. We had this opera dividing picture. My father wrote about the opera at the Wiener Kurier. And you have to imagine that the opera house was bombed. The other picture. Yeah, and they tried to rebuild it. That was 1946. And it was opened again 1955. And they had now the problem that the Viennese they like opera, and they had no opera house. And therefore they had to because the opera house was a big opera house, the old one, and they had now to divide the programmatic into two houses, one of Volksoper and one at Theater an der Wien. For the people they looking to this broadcast, Theater an der Wien is the theater where Beethoven's Fidelio was played the first time. It's a wonderful, beautiful, fine theater, not too big for Mozart operas and Fidelio like that, perfect. Yeah, and now you have to imagine that the polity allowed that the musicians of Vienna State Opera went from about 120 to 180, that they were able to play both halls at the same time, because so many people wanted to go to opera. And this in 1946. That was really an extraordinary situation. And you see there the Volksoper, and you see that it was really to bring fun to the people again, and the politics were really working, bring up the music again. And at this Volksoper, that was also funny, at this Volksoper were new regisseurs were coming. One of them was Willy Forst. Willy Forst was a well-known filmmaker in the time between the world wars, and he made then regie at Opera House, and also a Mr. Ernst Marischka. And this Mr. Marischka made later films with, for instance, Drei Mäderlhaus, that is a Schubert film, very easy story for the people to make it all people glad and positive, very easy story. And he was also making operettas, and these operettas he made the text, and Mr. Eberhard Wächter sings now one Lied of one operetta of Mr. Marischka.
Sehr schön, ja. Und es trifft sich, dass dieser Ernst Marischka Mittextautor ist von dem Orloff.
Sehr gut. Und daraus werden wir jetzt außerdem noch ein Lied singen, weil wir doch bei den Liedern sind. Und das ist auch eine meiner Freuden an Musik.
Wenn ihr eine Frauenhand das Glück zertrümmert, darf's der kleinen Frau deshalb nicht böse sein. Unbewusst spielt sie mit Herzen unbekümmert, greift ihr schlankes Händchen in dein Schicksal ein. Nimm es nicht ernst, präg es dir ein. Was du hier lernst, soll eine Lehre für dich sein. Die Frauen wirst du nicht ändern, und das wäre auch schlecht. Lass alle, wie sie sind schon recht. Wenn's dir auch einmal zu nahe geht, denk, bevor die Träne dir im Auge steht. Wandere, mein Herzchen, wandere, es muss ja nicht diese sein, es gibt auch noch andere. Denn wenn du heute die eine küsst und morgen bei der anderen bist und bei der dritten dann auf alle zwei vergisst, dann wirst du sehen, dass eine wie die andere ist. Was ich jetzt gesungen habe, ist nicht wahr. Ich muss es singen, weil es in der Rolle steht. So ein drittes Aktlied singt man Jahr für Jahr, und immer ist's ein Lied, das sich um Liebe dreht. pfleg es dir ein, nimm es nicht ernst. Was du hier lernst, soll eine Lehre für dich sein. Die Frauen wirst du nicht ändern und das wäre auch schlecht. Lass alle wie sie sind, sie sind schon recht. Sollte vielleicht hier, es ist ja immerhin möglich, noch jemand ledig sein, der probier's bei seinem süßen Mägdelein. Wandere, mein Freundchen, wandere, bis du dann einsehen wirst, es gibt keine andere. Denn wenn du heute eine küsst und morgen beide andern misst und bei der zigsten auf alle X vergisst, dann wirst du sehen, dass keine wie die eine ist.
Wow. Oh, that is just delightful.
For instance, what I remember just now, for instance, this ending, where you saw the writing, he was only begged to play, please, 1 minute and 30 seconds more to bring that in. There were no music for that. He do this in the moment, in organization. And why? He was, as his childhood, he played also the movies, Stummfilm, the movies without, and he was playing on the piano, and
The
he
silent
told,
films.
yeah, right, and he told me if there was a water breaking down, he had to play water breaking down, and then and it was silence and beautiful saying, it was beautiful music, and these changes, this was the taste he got, and therefore I like him so much, because it was so easy. All what he did, it seemed to be so easy. It was not, but it seemed to be so easy. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, for instance, only one thing I wanted to explain, what was interesting.
I'm sorry, Dr. Davis, you have a question?
Yeah,
I hate to interrupt, but I'm enjoying this so much. I was in Switzerland when Ernest Ansermet
yeah.
was the conductor, and I
Mhm.
was really impressed with him. And I was a student, so I
Yeah.
always got tickets way up in the top balcony, if there was any remaining seats. But I
Yeah,
just wanted to pass the word of Ernest Ansermet. He rests with me very well.
yeah. And for instance, I found a critic of from my father about a Streichquartett, very well known, the name
String quartet?
string quartet. I told you this name, and he wrote in his critic, they were back from Switzerland.
Ah.
And that was very clear then after the Second World War that they were in the exile at Switzerland. And that was only written half a sentence, they are back from Switzerland, and the Austrian public knew exactly why, and they were very glad that they were back. Such situations were very fine. The characteristics were very fine at this time.
Very
And
gentle, very
gentle,
like you
gentle.
said, in the political
Gentle.
considerations.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
and so it was for the Jewish exiles coming back to Vienna.
Yeah.
They were welcomed. Was it?
Yeah. It was Shandor Weg, for instance. You know, maybe a very well-known name. Shandor Weg. He was later then conductor until his age of 80. a very good Mozart style person. And they were playing, the quartet was very well known, and they were playing in Switzerland. Maybe you have heard them when you were a student at Switzerland.
Yes, I
Yeah?
did. I enjoyed them. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Uh, what I also wanted, I see it's very late. Uh, what I wanted only to tell very quick is you have to know that the zones in Austria after the Second World War, Austria was divided in zones, and if you wrote now a critic of, for instance, a performance in Graz, as my father did in July 47, of a premiere of the opera Peter Grimes. That was the first time in Austria at this time. And you have to imagine you have to leave the zone of Vienna and to go to the British zone to Graz. That was not a journey as today with the train, 1.5 hours to Graz. You had to have the full day to be able to hear the performance at Graz, and in the night back. Not easy situations. Yeah. Therefore, it's also needed much more time to find these possibilities and to listen to every possibility and music and entrance. Yeah. Okay. What are
Well,
we doing with the time?
Well, we are running out with the time, unfortunately. So I would like very much, I would like just for you to tell us maybe, let's listen to actually our final music. You said it's your favorite song. Let's listen to that, and then we will close up the show. So
Okay. I
this
say thank you for
this
invitation.
this is Schreier and singing Strauss Morgan.
What I wanted to say before is that my father knew Richard Strauss per person, and they had big contact. And my father was also a friend of Karl Böhm. And Karl Böhm was a very good friend of Richard Strauss, because Karl Böhm conducted all Strauss operas, and they had a big letter contact. And therefore this is also a big connection, and therefore this Strauss is a special thing, also how he's playing that. And I like it very much. I hope you do it also.
Die Sonne wieder scheinen, und auf dem Wege, den ich gehe, lehre wird uns die Glücklichen uns wieder eine inmitten dieser sonnenatmenden Erde. Und zu dem Strand im weiten Wogenblau
Magical. Wow. Lovely. So, last question, Professor Werba, tell us, after having heard about all of this extraordinary past of your father, of your family's history, um, uh, so many generations who have made Austria what it is. Tell us about what does the future look like to you?
Yeah, the future. I'm sure after this pandemic, our pandemic gave a big broke down, and the public is very careful. Some of the members don't like to go to concerts now, but it will become better. We are working for it. The orchestra is working. The singers are working. We are making young singers operas. We are trying to bring that to the people to make them glad again. And we are only a small part now, the classic. Became much more smaller than it was, but the quality is very high. If you go to Staatsoper or you hear broadcasts of the State Opera, they are very good. I like to go in the performances, and the quality is not the problem. The problem is to bring the classic music to the people, and there are not so many people that are able to to open this music to the people. And therefore, I would like, and this is my wish, that in the future are 3, 4 people like my father was, to show the people how easy it is to have an entrance in this classic music. Let's see. I hope so that it will work.
Fantastic.
Okay.
We all hope so too. So
Yeah.
let's see how we stay in touch with Professor Werba. Here is the Vienna Philharmonic. He is artistic director of the Summer Academy Opera. I'll get this in English right there. There it is,
Yeah.
Summer Academy Opera. And so this is his present project right now, where
Yeah.
he is bringing music to the people through.
Today we found a new young conductor who will make this production. And it's always
Fantastic.
difficult to find somebody who is very young and is, how to say, you can bring it in touch with Mozart and not with very difficult pieces. Mozart can be easy, it seems to be easy, but it is not easy.
Fantastic. So if people want to reach out to you, then
Please,
they can.
Michael@werba.cc.
There it is.
Please
So
contact me.
you'll give me
This
your
is my
email directly.
private.
So his first name at his last name, Michael@werba.cc. So we feel free to reach out to Professor Werba with your questions, your comments.
Please write to me. I will be very glad to be in contact. Dankeschön.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, Professor Michael Werba, for bringing us into your family and into their story and making us feel a part of it.
Thank you so much. And excuse me my terrible English, but I'm enthusiastic and I cannot write it down. It doesn't work.
Well,
it's
I
only
disagree.
the best to bring it directly to the people.
You have excellent English. So
And English ausgezeichnet, Professor Werba.
Fantastic.
Bye-bye.
Let's see what's coming up next week. Next Wednesday, we have Mikel Djokic. Open rehearsals.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Open relationships are not considered legitimate relationships by Western standards. They are viewed as crumbling facades masking partners' mutual disrespect. For much the same reason, quote unquote, open rehearsals are unpalatable to conservative classical musicians. They believe that serious musical partnerships are exclusive and based on pairing musicians of the same artistic skill level and maturity. This phenomenon is so pronounced that it is unquestioned practice in higher education. Teachers rehearse with teachers and students with students. But there is reason to believe that open rehearsals, meaning inclusive rehearsals that anyone can take part in, can lead to stronger, more respectful relationships for everyone involved. Michelle Djokic, a Grammy-nominated cellist and daughter of World War II survivors, applies such an innovative open rehearsal format to address social ills, the likes of bullying, shaming, and exclusion. To those rehearsals, she brings elite professional musicians to share the rehearsal process with adolescents. Come welcome Michelle to our show, and let's ask her how it's going. As always, all information about upcoming shows can be found at www.simeonmoro.com. Again, that is Michelle Jokic, open rehearsals next Wednesday. Again, thank you so very much to Professor Michael Werba. Thank you to
Bye-bye.
Professor Lino Rivera. And thank you
you.
very much to Agnieszka Rivole for her support of this show. Most of all, thanks to you, our participants who make it all worthwhile. From
Thank
Vienna,
you to you.
Austria, from
Bye-bye.
Lyon, France, from San
Bye-bye.
Francisco, California. Goodbye, and see you next Wednesday.
Bye.